Shavkat Rakhmonov is definitely a mysterious figure in the UFC. He is always smiling and the people of Kazakhstan absolutely adore him. He is like their national hero. But who exactly is Shavkat? I know UFC fans are just dying to know more about him. And as of now, I really do think that Shavkat is starting to come out of his shell. So to help all of us UFC fans get to know Shavkat Rakhmonov a bit more, here are my top 5 facts about Shavkat Rakhmonov you probably didn't know before. So Shavkat actually started training Sambo early on in his career, and he was cornered on his MMA debut by none other than the late legendary Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, Khabib's dad. So this was actually back in 2014, around 10 years ago now, against Adam Tosrov, and Shavkat actually won that fight with a first round submission. So all die-hard UFC fans should know that Abdulmanap has created so many UFC champions, from the likes of Khabib to Islam Makhachev, and even Khabib himself believes that Shavkat Rakhmonov is definitely a future title contender.
Вот здесь Шавкат сидит.
I've come across this clip quite a few times of Khabib having a sit-down dinner with Shavkat Rakhmonov, and it's clear that the two must have a really good relationship. But it does make me question how the relationship will be if and when Shavkat becomes the welterweight champion and then Islam goes to fight him. As we all know, Islam has said it is his dream to become a 2-division champion.
I'm tired to give chance the small guys. I need my second belt, you know.
Anyway, moving on to my second interesting Shavkat fact. So Shavkat has a ruthless sister who also competes in MMA. Her name is Sora Rakhmonova, and I just love how her surname is like a feminine version of Shavkat's. And the reason I'm calling her ruthless is because I've seen quite a few clips of her in her past MMA fights, and she can literally punch the crap out of her opponents to a knockout victory. I even saw this one clip where Sora had quite a fiery, intense face-off with her opponent, Kilola Sobirova, so I'm not sure exactly what went on behind the scenes and why this rivalry was so intense, but they literally had to be separated on stage by all the men. But I just really want to see Sora Rakhmonova enter the UFC. I know I've said it in a past video. So she was due to compete on Dana White's Contender Series. She made it all the way out to Las Vegas, but then I think the fight fell through due to an injury, and then she returned back to her native Kazakhstan. Shavkat even had to miss his sister Sora's wedding because he was preparing for his fight against Wonderboy Thompson at UFC 296. But then again, of course, that just shows how dedicated Shavkat is to his career. I saw this clip on ESPN MMA's TikTok, and it looks like Shavkat was on FaceTime to his sister during the wedding. But clearly the siblings have a really strong bond, and they even train MMA together. I've seen quite a few clips of the pair grappling, and even Sora with her arms around Shavkat's neck trying to choke him out. And again, I think it would be so iconic if the both were in the UFC together and champions at the same time. They will literally be like the next MMA super family. So my third interesting Shavkat fact is that he lives a nomadic lifestyle. And honestly, I am just in awe of people that do live nomadic lifestyles. I just think being outdoors is so much fun. It's so refreshing. Just being around horses and nature all the time is just so good for your mental health and well-being. I just think being outdoors all the time on the horses is just the best way to live. Maybe not everyone agrees with me, but just being at one with nature can do so good for your overall mental health and well-being. So I was watching this UFC Origins episode on Shavkat Rakhmonov, and he did say that once he does end his MMA career, he would love to spend more time riding horses. And I know that is definitely because he wants to stay injury-free as much as possible, because spending so much time riding horses can really take a toll on your body. So Shavkat even trains outdoors. And here is a clip of him doing a cold plunge in a river in Kazakhstan. I can't even begin to imagine how freezing that would be. Of course, all of this training definitely is at a high altitude, and that brings with it all of the cardio and health benefits that really prove pivotal to Shavkat's MMA performance in the octagon. Seeing fighters train outdoors in nature like this just always reminds me of the fourth Rocky film when he's preparing, I think in the Siberian mountains, for his his fight against Ivan Drago. So fighters from that part of the world are known for doing their training outdoors, including the likes of Islam Makhachev and most recently Khamzat Chimaev, who chose to train in the Russian mountains for his fight against Robert Whittaker, and we all know that definitely did pay off for him once he dislocated Robert Whittaker's jaw in the first round. So my fourth interesting Shavkat point actually builds off the whole nature concept and being outdoors, and that is that Shavkat has quite an interesting diet, and that is based off horse meat and fermented horse milk known as kumis. But his team really do believe that Shavkat's diet is what makes him so strong. And I definitely, of course, do think that diet plays a crucial role into how strong any human being is. But of course, if you're eating something so unique and rare like horse meat like Shavkat, that is definitely going to set you apart from the rest of the crowd in some way. Shavkat has set himself apart from the crowd with having such a flawless MMA career so far, 18 wins and 18 finishes. Going back to the nomadic lifestyle, I have to talk about the yurt here. I just absolutely love yurts. I just think they are so cozy. So living in a yurt and spending his life this way is a way that Shavkat and his team pay tribute to his ancestors. And did you also know that Shavkat is the first person from Kazakhstan to actually sign and win in the UFC? So that is definitely the reason why Kazakhstan is just so behind Shavkat. The entire country is always behind him. And if you look at the comments of any of Shavkat's posts or any post on Instagram that is to do with Shavkat, you will just literally see hundreds and hundreds of Kazakhstan flags all over. And despite all the fame that's come with Shavkat being in the UFC, it's amazing to see that he's really still trying to preserve his identity and his roots. And I really hope the UFC does more documentaries about Shavkat's life in Kazakhstan, and I'm sure there is so much more Kazakh undiscovered MMA talent. So my fifth and final interesting Shavkat Rakhmonov fact is that he discovered MMA through finding DVDs at his local market. So these DVDs were actually old Pride and UFC DVDs, and he watched them and got so inspired by the men that were fighting in these competitions, especially when he saw the likes of fighters such as Fedor Emelianenko. Despite Shavkat always being into fighting since he was a kid, he even said that his older brothers would actually encourage him to fight and go and fight different people. It's interesting to know that Shavkat actually decided to hone his skills into MMA once watching these DVDs rather than pursuing a different type of combat sport. And I really do think it is such an incredible story because it just shows how authentic Shavkat's origin story is and how innocently he actually discovered his passion at a young age and really stuck with it and did not give up on his dream to make it big in MMA. I definitely think there's a few lessons we can learn from Shavkat's story, and that is definitely to stick to your passions and don't give up on them, and also do not be afraid to show off your culture and roots. As we all know and have seen, Shavkat does wear his traditional headdress when he's making his entrance in the UFC. I believe it's called a timak. So I just think it's so cool how he's really promoting his identity and country. So that's all, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you know any other interesting Shavkat Rakhmonov facts, please post them in the comments below. As always, please don't forget to share and like this video and subscribe to my channel.